Welcome back to the Four Podmen, the podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Also available on Anchor, the audio versions. So if that's your preference, head over there. You'll pick it up Spotify, Podbean, wherever you pick up your audio shows. And joining me tonight for a very special episode of the Podmen. A little bit of a contrast from our normal Friday nights. You'll see that there's only three. You'll see that we've recruited in a special podman for this show all the way from Limerick. Jonathan, how you doing, my man?
Doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to doing this, man. This is awesome.
Brilliant.
One of my favorite subjects.
Jonathan's after parachuting all the way in from Limerick, which I'd say was beautiful down there the last couple of days.
Oh, yeah, especially today. Today was yesterday as well was really good. But today now the sun was shining. I'm right alongside the Galties. So the view, when the weather's good, it's absolutely unreal here. Like, so
the mountains, not the cheeses.
Yes.
Our mountains of cheese. Also joining me tonight, my hot tag partner from the Four Podmen every Friday, the one and the only Jay Kennedy, the D-O-double-G. Jay, how we doing?
Fuck yeah, you know how we do. We do how we do. We start sober and we finish flaming fucking pissed, baby. This is what we do. It's a pleasure to have fucking wildcard Jonathan O'Dwyer here sitting beside as well from you know, the Galtee Peninsula. It's rare to gather. Well, there was a time when it was very rare to gather this many Warrior fans in the same place at the same time, openly.
True. Yeah, no, it's great to talk to you as well, man. Yeah, great to finally meet a fellow big Warrior fan. Like, so yeah, no, it's great to finally talk to you, man.
Well, you can tell by the lads' enthusiasm so far that this episode is going to be about the Ultimate Warrior, but not so much a career retrospective look back. We're going to take a look at both these men's journeys as being an Ultimate Warrior fan and how the big man impacted on their lives. So this should be a real interesting episode. Where do we start? Jonathan, let's start with you. You're the guest tonight, so we'll start with you. Tell us where the love for this man, first memories, where it all began.
All right. For me, he was gone for most of the time that I was a fan during his actual run. So like most of the times that I saw him, it was on the VHSs, you know, renting them out from the video store in Mitchelstown, a few miles away from here, like, you know, back in the day. I was always trying to get him to sell me the videos as well, but the pricks never would. But then they went out of business and then I bought the damn things. But so it was mainly through VHS I saw. I remember WrestleMania 7, I think, was the first time he made a really big impression on me, the match with Macho Man. I didn't see WrestleMania 6 till a good few years later. SummerSlam 92 with Macho Man was another big one, but where he really made a big impression on me was for a couple of years, like watching Win the Shoot interviews and stuff started becoming big. I remember like one with DiBiase and a few others, and they were all trashing him. Yeah, they were all trashing him.
Where are you, Ted?
And they were all trashing him, and like, you know, I would have only been, you know, early teens at that point, like, so I didn't really know any better, so I just, you know, took their words for it at the time. Then the Self-Destruction DVD came out, and after watching that, I watched it twice. First time I kind of, you know, took it for what it was, and then second time I was like, there's something really off about this. It's all conjecture, like, you know, none of them really know him. They're all basing it off of, it just seems like jealousy. And even Roddy Piper said that to me in person as well, that it was just jealousy, like, you know, a lot of their bullshit with him. But so I looked into it, and I found his website and everything, and he was just so interesting, you know. I mean, didn't necessarily agree with everything the man said. I mean, who do we agree with on freaking everything or whatever? But he was just so interesting, so intense. His integrity, you know, his family values. He was such a committed family man and so intense about, you know, working out and being the best version of yourself and everything. And like I was telling you on the Upper Tier episode I did with you know, like I was in really tough spot at that time. I would have been about 16. And like dealing with a lot of shit in school, getting, you know, picked on, and then dealing with like my disability and kind of the whole dream of being a wrestler not, being able to happen because of the disability and everything. I was in a really bad place, like really depressed, dark place, and I just about given up on everything. And when I started paying attention to him, he just gave me that desire to push forward and really to live again and make something of myself and everything. Like I didn't really see how I could have a life without becoming a wrestler. That was kind of the underlying burden of everything at the time, like on top of, other things. But he just completely inspired me to turn everything around, and even my workout life, to push harder on that front. And, I was able to get a lot stronger than I ever should have been able to with the Charcot-Marie-Tooth syndrome that I have. And so he just took it. It's so ironic, like that through the self-destruction DVD, it had the complete opposite effect on me. It made me a warrior disciple for life, so he completely inspired me to turn my life around. And that was just through the man himself, for his core of who he was and what he represented. And then, the whole wrestling into things then as well, for me, was always just a bonus. Like, he was so freaking entertaining, so special, so unique. I don't give a shit about whether he was a great worker or any of that crap. Like, he was entertaining as hell. Just listen to the fans any, time he was on the card. He was just so unique and special. And, the business is missing a lot of that. We need some warriors, that's where it started for me anyway.
I have visions of you here going down to that video shop. I love VHS when people mention that. So old school and classic. But I have visions of you with that video in your hand and you're running back to the house like Warrior. Get the video on and all. It's
shoelaces screaming in the wind.
And if you'd ever seen me run, that would be quite the funny visual. It's more like a kangaroo hop.
Well, in fairness, the big man's run was kind of visual as well, so it's not too far off. I also as well, it's amazing that they released the DVD to try and discredit and bury the man, and instead it made his fan base even united and even stronger. Amazing.
110%.
A contradiction and juxtaposition in terms of why did anybody who sat down to put that thing together, did nobody sit down and watch it? You can't have journeymen and men who are bitter with the business and wound up broke sitting down using other dead men's stories to discredit a man still alive and say, well, he only knew 1.5 moves, and then show 4 minutes of him doing loads of moves. And like, did you not watch it?
And what's so ironic as well? Have you seen the DVD they did around the same time as well on the Road Warriors?
Yeah.
Right. If you go back and watch that, like if you look at all the points they made about the Road Warriors, like they would kind of jokingly go on about them, not being the greatest of workers and hurting guys, and they were really rough, and they'd beat the shit out of you, but they'd make that point in more of a kind of a jovial way, and like about them, and they would talk about them, kind of carving their own path in the business and not really giving a shit about, like the traditions or anything. And it's like, and, when it came to Warrior, then all of that stuff was used against him. I just always thought that was so freaking ironic. And I think it's down to like the fact that Hawk was a big partier and all that type of stuff with the guys. Warrior was never really, into that kind of thing. Like, so they all just thought he was a stuck up, whatever.
Traditionally, with that company, if you don't toe the line and suck the turnbuckle's dick, you're an outsider profiteering off other men's work, and that's absolute holy horseshit. It's my favorite DVD of the Warrior. It's what I put on to be entertained, because one, they compress so much awesomeness into 1 hour and a half or 2 hours, and like, and then they've all these other guys, well, Jim, we didn't know what he was saying half the time. It's like, yeah, well, listen to it. It's fucking awesome. I mean, I know what you're saying right now, and I don't want to hear it.
Exactly. And like one point I'll make on that as well is like, because that drives me nuts when people say, oh, I couldn't understand a word he was saying, blah, blah, blah. Or like, when I started reading his writings and stuff, like there was a lot of big words in there. Like he used a lot of, fancy terminology and stuff like that I didn't understand. And like, I had to have the dictionary and thesaurus at the ready when I was reading his stuff, like, you know, or even for some of his promos. But if you actually know what the words he's saying meant, everything made actual perfect sense. He was just a lot more intelligent than a lot of these guys. Like,
well, I think he got that way. You know, I think he was look. He gave us the character we needed as 6-year-olds, but I think his intellect really kind of progressed with his philosophical outlook on life and self betterment and all that. It did. He grew. I mean, because before, when he was running lawnmowers over him and shit like that, it was like, yeah, I don't need a Thesaurus Rex to understand what this motherfucker's saying. I am in. And also a lot of them cunts as well. You watch their promos around the time when the big man was running and shaking fucking ropes. They all start doing that crazy weird shit. Even the Hogan fellow. I watched the promo a little while ago and I'm like, well, did you find fucking Warrior's notepad in the Jack's holster? Well, you know, the stars are lying and I'm nervous. Like, that's not your lingo, pal.
Yeah.
Man's words.
And even Macho, when we didn't think Macho could get any worse, he shot to the moon being around the world. You know?
I'm sure when he watched the Warrior coming in, he was the happiest of all. Like, what's that? It was like, the Warrior. I need that beside me. Oh yeah. I'm like, do you really? Because we do.
Yeah, and I'd say as well, most of the lads didn't say too much about Hog because they were probably scared he'd come back from the dead and beat the piss out of them.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Good point.
Another couple of men who are fond of a little bit of fucking alliteration in promos. I mean, what was it? The Zoom head dweebs and what was it? Remember the little promos they used to cut and it was gibberish? You're like, these men are all high.
yeah. What was it? The one about Big Bird, the Big Bird Nick and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, Hawk would rattle off some stuff, but nothing is said about that. Then, like, it's he was great. He was off.
No, those were great. We owned their name.
Remember the one he did about the moon? Just went off.
Oh, my, you got the other fella. Oh, you're not going to the hospital. You're going to the hospital. And we're like, well, okay.
Tell him, big man.
Was the best.
Animal looking at him going, and he goes, tell him, big man. And Animal's going, what the fuck am I supposed to say now?
How do I follow that? You've just burned your guitar wrestling Hendrix. What am I supposed to say?
Jay, first memories of the Warrior.
Come
into the life.
You know, I was lucky. I was very fortunate. An aunt had some fucking fancy channels that, you know what I mean, we didn't have in the house. I mean, I remember Bosco and horse racing. Those were my choices. And to be honest with you, I got real into watching the horses run in circles. You know, I mean, after you've seen a few tongue twisters, you're just like, I don't need that in my life, Dad. Just put on your foxy gambling, will you? But every so often you get this glimmer of hope through the telly. I mean, if it wasn't Airwolf, it was pro wrestling. And when that shit came on, I remember the first time we were sitting there watching I don't know what episode of what it was, but Don Morocco came walking down with us. I only knew who these people are in the future. They're keeping the hobby up. And it was Morocco walked down with fucking, Superstar. And I remember the other going, look at the size of these fuckers. What are they eating? And I'm like, what? And I looked at them like, well, look at them, they're made of bubbles. What's going on with them? So that was the first introduction to any wrestling. And I just fell in love with it straight away. And I remember I'm marking out for several men who kind of came and went in the business. You know, the mid-'80s was a very fucking come and go period. I remember I marked out seriously for Corporal Kuchner and his little fucking Rambo promo cuts, and then he last 3 weeks before he was off in Japan killing people. And then I remember the second one was Billy Jack Haynes. I seriously marked out for that motherfucker, and I still have a serious soft spot in my heart for him. And then
he was jacked as well.
Oh, he was a beast. I mean, if you write down on a notepad what you need from a professional wrestler, what you say are you're 6'6", 6'5", 6'6". Yeah, that'll do. We'll 6'8" you real quick. Oh, you're jacked. Okay, fair enough. You learned where? Stuart's Dungeon. Okay. So we got a near 300-pounder who's 6 odd who can actually move, works. He's tagged with Wahoo McDaniels for the last 3 years, so we know he can handle the party and the leather knuckling. Oh, come on in. We've got some work for you here, baby. You look sensational. You know what I mean?
And you wear a hat. You wear a hat we'd never suspect.
You know what I mean? You even look at his cut right now. You could take him out of 1984, put him in pro wrestling right now, and you're looking at the rebirth of the whole fucking industry. The guy just had everything to a T. Moves. He could fucking work the ropes. He could sell. He could fucking boy. He could do whatever he wanted. But what he couldn't do was have a normal human's brain. And last time he wanted in a year in a job. So I'm like, okay, you know, we hardly knew you. See you. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I was like, oh, that's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I'm like, yes, finally, the eagle has landed. Oh, and unfortunately, yeah, you know, Ricky didn't stick around too long for me. I'm like, okay, it's not going to be that cunt who keeps on, you know, calling for his hearing aid. I didn't get into him from the get-go. The minute I looked at him, I'm like, I'm not having that. I'm not fucking having that. I mean, he's lucky to have clothes. Why is he ripping the mountain? I'm not having that. You know what I mean?
This is the 80s. The world's in a recession and you're ripping shirts.
In Ireland, the rest of the world is in a global recession. Well, except for America, they've got bleeding the cocaine cowboys. But I'm in Ireland, and we can only afford to see in 4 colors. What's that about? And then, you know, boom, one day I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay, I'm just enjoying the action. All of these superstars are larger than life. The mid card could be fucking the top dogs of any of the last 20 years in any bleeding promotion. I'm sitting there, and then the fucking curtain breaks. I'm like, what's that? And I just remember my head just going, and he was out of the ring as soon as he was in the ring. I'm like, and the pop and the fucking, it was the commentary team. I don't even remember who it was against. It was probably one of them jobbers like a fucking Johnny Gibb or some shit like that. He took a clothesline, flipped 360 fucking time, 360 days. He was still spinning before the Warrior pinned him, and he was back out of the ring to collect his check. Like, oh, I'm like, now that's how you earn money quick.
Right, so let's go on.
From there, I was sold.
Brilliant. So let me take us back. A certain man in a beautiful red jumpsuit is in the ring. Beefcake is injured. He doesn't know apparently he doesn't know who's coming out. I don't care who it is. Send out anybody, this man says. Next thing the music hits. What was the feeling then, boys? Jonathan?
Oh, man. First time I saw that, like, I mean, I saw that well after the fact. Like, I started watching in 93, like, so can't remember the first time I seen it, probably early 2000s, but like, it was just perfect, you know, like, not every match like needs to be like a freaking half an hour, you know, a spot fest, you know, false finishes or whatever. Sometimes like things just need to be right, you know, and like all the stars align on that. Like, you know, you have to give a lot of credit to Honky as well. He built up so much heat. He built up so much heat with that IC title run. You know, he was great. He you know, he's like you know, the Miz now. You know, he knows his role and he plays it perfect. Like, you know, and that music hits, man, and it just like that building just erupts. Like, and the pop at the end. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to get a bigger pop than the freaking end of that match, man. I mean, you can see the people just freaking roar. Like, so you just talk about a moment in time that was just for what it needed to be. All the
original Yes movement. Yes.
Very true. It was just spot on, man. It was freaking awesome stuff. Like, I remember even back then, that was like, I would have seen that before, you know, like my peak Warrior fandom and everything. But even then, like, I think that and WrestleMania 7 were my first, and SummerSlam 92, they were my first kind of 3 really standout Warrior moments.
What was your thinking on it, Jay? The jumpsuit got totally disrespected.
Yeah. Look, see that? I was a mark for him before I was a mark for anything in this world. I can just remember being an Elvis fanatic. And again, I remember watching it when it went out first time round. And as a massive Elvis fan, it was like, do you remember in those old 80s TV shows where they had an evil Knight Rider or an evil Airwolf and it was just a guy with a mustache? It was the same man who played the good guy with a greasy mustache. And his name was slightly tweaked. That's how I felt about Honky. I mean, I don't like him that he's ripping off Elvis, isn't he, son? Isn't he fucking dickhead? I'm like, he is a effing DA, isn't he? Yeah, he is. I'm like, and boom, like just like the man said, the frenetic energy was just so palpable. It again, you think you're calm in your brain, and then the curtains break, you hear the music, and then you're switched on again like some kind of 50s bleeding Twilight Zone episode. Burst through the rope, just completely disregards everything. Even the commentary team sold it perfectly. Honky did the job perfectly. The audience did the job perfectly, which you can't get them to do right now. You know, everything was just queued up, and it was almost like you scripted it, which was, we know now. But he didn't even care it was for a belt. You know what I mean? That was another thing that came across very heavily. I mean, if he'd have ran out with it between his teeth, it wouldn't have mattered. So you're like, that lunatic doesn't know what he just did, and I don't think he cares.
I was trying to think of the locker room. I can imagine lads in the locker room warming up and getting ready, and he comes back through the curtain with the belt, and they're going, "You're back already, or what?"
He still got his paint on. They must have cancelled him.
He literally ran into the ring, ran the ropes, pinned them, and ran all the way back with the belt.
One of the ugliest clotheslines the business has ever known. It's almost like he was wrestling with actual shadows. Honky wasn't even there in his head. Predator vision.
He never even broke a stride. It was unbelievable. And I just remember cameramen going everywhere. Brilliant.
Oh, one point that Jay made as well there about the commentary. Superstar Billy Graham was commentating on that. Oh, his call at the end, like, you know, it's just so simple. He was like Don West in TNA. He's just like, I love it. You know, it's such good stuff.
Do you know what I picked up on the other day rewatching it? Remember the bit he says, you don't want to be doing that honky calling. There's a lot of guys back there in the locker room that'll beat you up.
Yeah.
You know? I just thought that was brilliant as well, you know.
Even the announcer doesn't know who's coming out. It was all sold so perfectly. It was like a mystery box. It was just
brilliant.
Perfection.
But I tell you, you know, there is a caveat to that as well. Honky says some lovely things about the man in the shoots as of late. He says that he wouldn't drop it to anybody else, but one, Warrior made sense. Two, he made more money that night than he ever did off the back of the Warrior. And three, he respects that it made sense logistically and business-wise. And when you hear some of the shit Honky has said in the past on shoot, you're like, wow, this is actually Honky, our character and gimmick. Why is he talking so rationally? And a lovely turnaround, because Honky used to say mad things, and he seems to have turned around, and the shoots have got a lot more genuine as of late. A true superstar.
I think there was also a promise of a Hogan run made, wasn't there, at one stage? I think.
Everybody was walking around with that ticket,
but not many cashed it in.
Very true.
So then, as IC champ, he goes on, lads. He wrestles the late great Rick Rude. What an unbelievable wrestler as well, and did a fine job of it.
R.I.P. today, believe it or not. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, it was. This is the anniversary. If I'm not checking back on my Facebook memories,
wow.
I could be wrong. Someone might have to check on that. But today, over the last 10 years, there's been shots to Rick Rude on this date. So I could be wrong. If I'm out 1 or 2 days, blame tequila.
And he also had a couple of matches with Andre. So they were really building them up through this period as a proper main eventer. But let's shoot then, guys. WrestleMania 6 rolls around. What a top billing. Hogan versus the Warrior. Jonathan, walk me through it.
Oof, like that. I think that's it. Like, you know, all the guys that have, you know, a beef with him can say whatever shit they want. The fact that Warrior got that spot the first time they'd ever done babyface versus babyface, and look, let's give Hogan his credit. Like he was the be all end all, you know, back then and everything. Like, you know, you can say what you will about like his personal things and everything, but like, so for Warrior to come into that spot and actually get the torch from him, let's face it, I think, and look, I am biased, like, but like 89 to 91, I think Warrior had eclipsed Hogan. You know, I honestly think he had. If you look at everything at the time, and like the fact that he got that spot, it says it all, like, about his place in the business, where he was, his popularity. So they can say all the shit that they want, like that says it all. And like, Christ, that match, that's another thing as well. Like, you know, the whole thing about him not being a great worker and all that bullshit. But like, you look at the quality of that match, you look at the quality of WrestleMania 7 and a couple of the others, like when he needed to kind of turn it on and, do more, wrestling stuff, like to create emotion and everything, he really could, and, there's other guys like that aren't the best workers that are big stars, but they never really had that type of quality matches. So I think that says a lot as well, but holy shit, that match, that moment, I mean, what can you say? Again, it was after the fact for me, but I think that was that and WrestleMania 25 with Undertaker and Shawn are probably the two matches I watched the most. WrestleMania 7 with Savage and Warrior would probably be up there as well, but I have watched that freaking match ad nauseum. I could probably verbatim do the commentary on it, for watching it so many times. It was just magic. I think Jay would be better speaking on it because you were probably watching at the time.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
So that would have been, oh man, what I would do.
I'll give you another one. Young, innocent, gullible Jay. I'm still all of those things. Only I'm 42 now. It was probably about 12 or 13 at the time. I'm not too sure, but my dad told me he got it for my birthday. April the 1st was my fucking birthday. I think I was probably 11 or 12. I'm like, thanks, da. Obviously he didn't, and obviously the tongue in cheek was firmly in my mouth. But yeah, wow. You know what I mean? When the stars align, now there's everything about it is perfect. Like you said. He has this. My problem with people dissing him as a worker is if you're going to diss him, come to me with some relevant information. Do not regurgitate a script that is being fed to you by a company you profess to hate using the words verbatim. Tell me why you hate the Warrior and I'll side with you if you have logic to your sense. But don't come at me with bullshit spoke by jealous men who never had their day in the spotlight. He worked his ass off. In 5 years, he was at the peak of the mountain. And if you were willing to meet him in the middle, he could excel in the middle. What he couldn't do is work with men who were unwilling to carry him, but through begrudgery. Yeah. He was the original fucking Psycho Sid Mark 1. He was the original John Cena Mark 1. He was this fucking colourful, vibrant, fucking bombastic man who just had us there with his frenetic energy simply because of one reason. He fucking believed it. Now, don't ask me to not believe in him when you're unwilling to sell me an argument that you believe yourself. And the proof is in the pudding. The apex of professional wrestling's boom was WrestleMania 6. And to quote Apollo Creed, it sounds like a goddamn monster movie. You got Hogan in one corner and the Warrior in the other, but there's a third corner in that. Us out there who don't know what's going to happen. We don't. And that was the mystery of the dance. It was before the internet and it was before our innocence was fucking ripped away from us by the grim, harsh truth of reality. We got to believe and it was beautiful to watch. And he met Hogan in the middle, hold for hold.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to dwell on too many more matches because I want to get into the emotion of this. Both you men had the opportunity to go meet this guy in Manchester. Jonathan, talk to me about that day.
Wow. God. That, man.
Right?
Oh, fuck. Oh, God damn it. Right, I'll start with first hearing about it. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I was in college at the time and remember being in the computer room one day. I was doing business and fishing through the website, wrestling websites and everything, and I seen it come off that there's this convention in Manchester and like Warriors top billing. And like I would have been, I think 17 or 18 at the time. And I had just gotten my grant for college. I don't think I'd ever been out of the country on my own yet at that point. And freaking God, my head has gone all jumbled. Freaking
high on raw emotion.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop the waterworks. But yeah. So like, when I seen it, like, you know, I was like, I'm going. You know, there's no ifs. Like, screw college. I used all my grant money to go. Like, you know, I didn't have a penny otherwise. I was doing, you know, a few laboring jobs, you know, to support myself. Otherwise, at the time, like, you know, I was like, I'm going, man. And I said it to my friend Mike Casey, and you know, he was like, "Oh, sure, that's in England." I was like, "I don't give a shit. We're going." You know, I'm not. Listen, Warrior's going to be that close. I am going, and
But that's another country.
yeah, and like, oh man, like, just what a moment. Like, I mean, what's funny, I just thought of this today, remembered it for the first time in a while. Like, I remember like, Warrior appeared on his own on the day, you know, because he liked to do that because of the heat, you know, with some of the guys and everything. And I remember like being in the line to meet the other guys and everything, and like a lot of fans there were really negative. Like, you could overhear them, like, you know, saying shit about Warrior, and it was driving me nuts all day, man. Like, you know, when I get mad, a vein in my head starts, you know, visibly starts fucking getting more dense, like, you know, and I could feel that vein growing all day. And then when we were in the queue for Warrior, when he showed up later on, there was a guy behind me with his dad. I feel a little bit bad about it now, but screw it. I had a chip in my shoulder at the time. Like, I didn't want to take shit from people, you know, after dealing with crap in school and stuff. And I heard him saying all kinds of shit about Warrior behind me. So I turned around to him and I said, like, what the fuck are you doing here queuing up to meet this guy? Like, if you have that much disrespect for him, like, you know, what the hell is the matter with you? Like, and he was just there like, you know, I couldn't believe, like, he was about probably 40 or something. I was only this little shit at 18-year-old, like, shit. But I had to do it, like, you know. And yeah, like, finally get to meet him and shake his hand. And, you know, I told him I could barely get the words out, like, you know, like, I told him, like, you know, that I'd gone through a tough time, and, you know, came across his website and everything, and you inspired me to turn my life around. And he looked at it, he was signing my picture as I was saying it, and when I said I stumbled across your website, he just looked up at me with that, you know, he had that huge smile with those big teeth, like, you know, that huge grin, like you can see in the picture. And, you know, he knew exactly what I was going to say next, like, you know, that, like, he'd inspired me to turn my life around. Like, you know, he was so appreciative, like, you know, he was so genuine, and he took his time, you know, as well. Like, you know, he was the genuine article, like, you know, there was no BS, there was no insincerity. And, you know,
he was there to meet us.
He really was, you know, you could really feel the sincerity, like, and, you know, and his energy and everything. He was just like, some of the guys, when you meet them, they're kind of a bit jaded and they don't really put the effort into kind of make it special for the fans. But he would always stand, you know, you'd never meet him sitting down. Like, he would always stand, and he'd always make an effort to look you in the eye and thank you. And like, he told me to email him, and like, I, you know, corresponded with him a bit through the years, like with tweets and everything. Like, you know, I had awesome tweets from him. That's something I need to frame up there as well. When I bench pressed over my body weight for the first time, like, you know, he thanked me for inspiring him. So, like, that's one of my freaking, you know, top moments of my life, I think, like, you know, as well as meeting him, obviously. So it was just absolutely unbelievable. You know, it was, I'm not even sure quite what to say about it. I always get a little tongue tied on it. Like, it was just incredible. Like,
Jay, I'm going to park you on this for the moment, because I know Jonathan's pressed for time. He has a podcast with the Mass Saint coming up on Pro Wrestling Defined on YouTube. Head over there and make sure you subscribe to that as well. Jonathan, I'm going to catapult you forward, because we need to talk about something here, which I know is going to be tough. He makes his return, gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, comes out on Raw, makes the speech on Raw on the Monday night. And on the Tuesday, news breaks that he has passed away, suffered a heart attack. Talk to me about that day.
Man, I was able to do this so much better when we were on the upper tier talking.
It's fine. We'll walk you through it. It's all good.
Man, like, it's funny because when we talked on the upper tier about it, and like I interviewed his former agent that brought him back that time. When I come to the part of his death, when I'm talking about it, I always seem to get to the same part, and I can't go any further. So I'll try and get on it a bit more this time. But yeah, like the big thing that stands out for me, like I was saying before, was the night before, seeing the Hall of Fame speech for the first time, because we didn't have the network yet, and I didn't see it live. So I saw it on YouTube on I think was it the Monday night or the Tuesday, and like just that thought of like, I have to meet him again, because like I had done, the acting, and the weight training had progressed so much, and I was in a good place, and I wanted to show him that I amounted to something, because I was still a teenager when I met him before. So I just so strongly, vividly remember that thought in my head going to bed the night before. I have to meet him again, so I can show him that I amounted to something, like that he made a real big difference in my life, like, and he had before as well, like, but I had I had tangible things to show him now. And my Casey rings me the next morning and wakes me up and tells me the news, and I was just in disbelief. Like I didn't believe it at the start. Like I had to go on Twitter and everything, and I seen it all. And I remember a weird fact in my head. I remember praying in my head, like bring him back, bring him back, please. Just don't leave this be real. Like the timing, everything, it was just, I mean, to end in that fashion is so bittersweet. It's amazing because, like, his final speech and everything, like the words he said, I mean, it makes it, live forever, on such a freaking big level. But like still there was so much that could have happened, and plus, like, just the fact that he didn't get to see his daughters grow older and everything, with as much of a dedicated family man as he was and everything. It was just it was heartbreaking. And like personally, like it took a long time to actually just process it, just to freaking believe it. It just didn't seem real. Like, even when I watch videos of him now, it still hits me in the gut. Like, fuck, he's not here anymore.
It's the JFK moment for pro wrestling fans, isn't it? Really, when you think
100%, definitely for me anyway. Like Eddie was up there as well, especially because of the age I was. Like that absolutely floored me as well. But Warrior, man, that was with the timing, everything. It really was like you said before.
Never has a demise in any kind of celebrity ever been so perfectly scripted, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it was for something.
Yeah, and like he, I mean, the words couldn't have been more prophetic. I mean, that was kind of his kind of stick anyway, But yeah, just to say that a couple of like the day before, it's just he was. I don't even know what to say about it, to be honest. See, I always get stuck at that part. I like the tribute that they did the next week, the One More Time song and everything. I mean, that was, oh man, that was a gut-wrenching moment. Like just even thinking about that song and that tribute that they did. Talk about full circle, coming from the DVD, and like that was WrestleMania 30, as he said in his Hall of Fame speech. This is the landmark WrestleMania, and I'm the freaking headliner. Like, so they can all say what they want. The man is an absolute top of the tier, upper tier legend, both as a man, as a human being. It wasn't perfect. None of us are. But the man was he was special, he was unique, and there'll never be another one. There'll never be another one like him.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't be above ground if it wasn't for that man. I really, really wouldn't, because I was I was at breaking point, like, and like if it wasn't for that man, I wouldn't, like, all the things I've done, you know, since, like, not, you know, putting myself on any fucking pedestal or anything. I'm a mess of a person in a lot of ways, but you know, I owe that man a lot, like, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure he knew that day as well. I'm sure he knew that day when you met him, you know, because I can only imagine what you were like that day, you know. But anyway, Jonathan, thanks for coming on. I know you got to jump off now. You got another podcast to get on. I hope you're able to sort out your emotions, or the mass saint to be wondering what's going on. Is he upset you?
Yeah, I think it's tea and cigarette time.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much, Les. I love doing it, man, and it's great to talk to you, Jim.
Thank you again. I'm gonna watch this again as I always do with fresh eyes, and I appreciate it. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
There's times when you think you're the only one who felt that way when you met him, and apparently I'm not. That matters. It fucking matters, man.
Yeah, it matters to me too, man. I love the fact that you hold his name in such high esteem. Like, you carry the ball for his name well. Like, you know, I saw fucking brilliant to talk to you.
Yeah. Well, I did say for a time.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah,
we'll talk soon.
I did say for a while I needed to connect you two, because you guys have a common bond there in terms of meeting the man and all, you know. So it's fantastic, you know. Listen, Jonathan, good luck with the podcast tonight. Enjoy it. Hit me up as soon as it comes out, and we'll do our bit on it as well as usual, you know. Appreciate it,
man.
Cheers.
Thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate it.
Oh, there
you go. No bother. So, Jay, you're not getting off the hook.
Wow.
let's fly back the day you met him, all the way over to Manchester.
Fuck yeah, Jesus Christ! What a storied day! We found out he was gonna be there, and obviously, like I'd said to you in just before we went on, that as little warriors, we spent so much time in the fucking wilderness with very little. We were fed scraps over the years. It was only when Jack Specific started putting out their classic range that we start seeing how important he was. And you know, as a man who retails in product, every line, there was about 15 to 20 series of those figures, and every second one had a warrior in them. He had 8 or 9 in a series
easily.
One easily. One of the range had fucking 2, him looking out of the box and him looking behind. I mean, I bought him off out of WrestleMania. I mean, probably in very early days as well. But
well, he's such an iconic look and such an iconic figure, and like, you would be drawn towards him, because especially the younger kids and stuff like that, because he's everything you think of in a superhero. And, you know, like, it's just a superhero and a god and all those kind of things, you know.
Yeah.
So you're naturally drawn towards him.
He was a warrior. His look, his image translates so well to marketing. If Vince had properly listened to him, I know his comic was shit. It's kitsch and it's funny, but he was onto something. And Jack Specific were the first ones to realize, if we go license his name and go above the WW's head, we're going to make money off this motherfucker. And they did. They fucking did. Like, I mean, he was, like I said, it was the first. It was when we start, and even going back to the WW releasing that fucking DVD, it was almost like, do you remember when Apollo Creed was trying to get Rocky out of the retirement, and he did the, you know, Apollo versus the Italian Chicken, and it was almost like a draw out, and everybody was like, "Hey, Rock, what you gonna do about this?" And he's like, "I don't know." You know what I mean? That's what that fucking DVD was. It was like they weren't trying to defame him. They were trying to get him out. They were drawing him fucking out. Like, they knew. Everybody knew. He was marketing. He was the first time that the Vince McMahon dream was happening in one man, and he never fucking stopped. He was relentless. That DVD drops. He didn't want to do no shoe. He dropped that shoe. You could see in him. He was telling stories and tales, and he was. Other men say they shoe. He shot.
Big time.
5,000 oil sign. You're getting 3.5 hours of a talking head. My career from my side. Even the Hunter Hearst, the story. Remember, he told me, grabbed him. Don't you ever go above my fucking head in this company. Do you know who I am? And what did he do? Didn't even take his jacket off. Just dropped him on his fucking face. Like, that's the day Triple H became Triple H. I don't care what anybody else said. That's when the the Hunter Hearst gimmick was put away. I was like, I need to be a warrior. Why? Did you see what he just did to me after me licking hole for 5 years in this business? Whether he likes it or not, he revolutionized the fucking situation to the point where we're still hearing the resonance of it now. You know what I mean?
Some people think that the greatest shower scene ever in entertainment was Psycho. I'd say the greatest shower scene ever was Warrior and Hunter.
Oh man, a 275-pound lean warrior, 255-pound lean warrior boxing off the fucking terror rising in the jacks. What did you say to them? Do you know who I am? I got fucking $500,000 out of him in cash in the bag. You had to go through his door to get billing. Fuck you. Macho did it first, my old tag partner, by the way. You could learn a bit from us. Do you know what I mean? And the H that walked out with that bleeding shower walked out a different man. That's when he realized, I need to reassess. I'm reviewing the situation. Yeah. And he got gobbled up at a mania. Again, right, you watch a story to where we got and who he is. Like he's again, I said this again, a bombastic attitude. You can't tell him he's wrong because he already knows he's fucking right. And was he wrong? Apparently not. But he the day, man, mania, or the meeting him, Jesus. After that shoot, that was when I decided I have to fucking shake his hand. Like I said, you keep it in you. He's one of those things who he was and how he believed he was wouldn't let you forget him, if you know what I mean. We forgot 1,000 great wrestlers who had 1,000,000 great matches over fucking countless events and arenas. Men who mattered and should matter, but are forgotten about. They're by the wayside. For a man who had 5 fucking moves, Jesus Christ, here we are. But I found out he was going to be on there, and I was living with my good friend Steve-O. I used to anything LOD. I was his man on the ground. He was obsessed with LOD. I was obsessed with the Warrior. We were all obsessed with Brothers in Paint. It didn't matter. We grew up on the VHSs, and we loved it, and we watched. We kind of kept one eye on the Attitude Era and one eye on Smoke, Rock, and Women. At times it left us cross-eyed.
So what was you arrive at the convention center or the place where it's on? What's
I couldn't go for the. Look, we got there early. I got Ryanair flights because I was unemployed at the time, and it was a whole situation. But me and Steve and somebody else got there anyway, and everybody's milling about, and we were one of the first 40 or 50 people in the room. Do you know what I mean? We spent a lot of the time sitting around. It was like a Guns N' Roses feeling. There was a rumor going around that he wasn't going to show, and I caught wind of this, and I was like, isn't he? And I'm like, well, he fucking better. I just flew from fucking Ireland to a place which I am historically an enemy of. I'm in enemy territory. I'm behind hostile lines right now to meet the big man, and they're already talking about him no showing. How do they know? But the rumor went round. It went round the chairs. You could hear it. It was palpable. It was like sitting. Do you know when you know shit's going to hit the fan and you're in school and you're all in detention for something and everybody's hush hush whispering about who did it and who didn't do it, and there's tension, and you're like, oh, we're all fucked. But they were all fucked, and they got a bus home. Why did they get a Ryanair flight back home? Do you know what I mean? We didn't have money to stay over. We flew over and sitting there for about 8 hours. I remember to break up the monotony. It got look in Old Trafford. There's nothing. We didn't know anything around the place. But we went for 2 walks outside of the fucking stadium. Like, I'm not a United fan. I was a former United fan back when that sport mattered to me. And it was the 50th anniversary of the Munich disaster, and we took 2 little walks out around the stadium, and we kept bumping into people like, oh, are you over for the celebrations? I'm like, fuck yeah, I am. And they were like, the Munich ones, or not the commemorations. Yeah. For the Munich disaster. I'm like, no, man, I'm here to meet the Warrior in the Theatre of Dreams. Like, oh, that's not a football thing, is it? I'm like, fuck no. You'd be Hulk Hogan.
At least I think not.
Like, you know, me and somebody's like, we best go back into that room and sit down, and you'll be sitting there in monotony waiting for a fucking, you're like, well, if I go for a cup of tea now, I'll have nothing to do for the next 5 hours, so I'll leave it for an hour before I go for a cup of tea. You know, it was that level of boredom and tension and apprehension. I remember at one stage I got up and I was like, right, I'm going over there, there's a merch stand over there, I'm going to see if they have anything I want to buy. And oddly enough, I was flicking through posters and there was this big mad fucking proper straight up 1989 Ultimate Warrior fucking poster. It was original. I'm like, how much is this, sir? Because I knew I'd hit gold. I'm like, this is fucking calico. This is, you know, hen's teeth. This is an original fucking 80s poster in the late zeros in Old Trafford. And I'm like, oh, that's £5, sir. I'm like, sold. I grab it and I'm so fucking choked myself. I'm like, look at this T-bone. This is fucking banging. Get this framed over the mantelpiece, put it on my bed. You know, bitches I'm smashing, be appreciating everything I'm a fan of. And then I seen this other guy coming over beside me. He's like, how much? I want one. And he was like, oh no, mate, that's the last one I have. That's an original. And your man's looking at me and he's looking at your man and he's like, oh, but please, I need one. And I'm looking at him, he's looking at that. I'm looking at your man. He's like, do you have another one for him? And I catch these little things on his arm under the sleeve of his t-shirt. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm talking, I was like, where are you from, pal? He goes, I am from Italy. I have traveled to meet the warrior. Please, do you please tell me you have another one? I'm like, and I raised the sleeve up off his t-shirt and he kind of looks at me. I'm like, do you have an Ultimate Warrior tattoo? He's like, yes, he is my everything. I'm like, give me a $5, pal. You've come from Italy. I've only come from Dublin. I was on the piss last night. You've got an Ultimate Warrior tattoo. I can't. Like, this isn't me. You have this, sir. And he's looking at me going, for real? I'm like, take it, brother. It's what matters. Always believe. Boom. So we walk away. I bought a Macho Man figure or some shit with the free so he gave me. We go sitting down anyway. We're waiting. We keep hearing these rumors, but every so often I look over at this Italian and he's got the poster curled up and he's like, I'm like, you're keeping me going, brother. But he's sitting with all these muscle men, like these meaty men, and I clocked straight away they're all workers. Do you know what I mean? And they're all on their pilgrimage from fucking wherever it was in Italy. But they're good guys, all waving and nodding. And I'm like, okay, this will kill 5 minutes before another 6 hours of waiting and avoiding time to go for a cup of tea.
This sounded like you had a very nervous day. You were trying to burn off nerves.
You've no idea, man. You've no idea. The closer we got and the closer everybody kept saying, now, one of the people we were with was there to see Bret Hart. Look, I love Bret, but I have no interest. There was a couple of the men on the undercard that were there. We didn't pay to see any of them, but to kill time anyway. It gets closer to the event and then they pop and they're like, oh, okay, start the queues. And there's maybe 8 men in this little fucking room next door to where the Warriors meeting and the person we were with, Bret Hart anyway. I was standing there watching this person and visiting Bret Hart and I just start getting down. Bret's sitting there. He was in his mean phase. Thankfully, he's not like that anymore, but he was in his, you know, the sit down, like, sniggering and laughing and looking up at people and signing the book. And one of the kids walked by and he thrown a Vince McMahon's name with a little devil character on the inside of the book. And I kind of just walking by, I'm like, that's a bit odd. Your fan wanted a picture or a sign off you. There's the devil with Vince McMahon's name under it with Bret Hart sign. I was like, there's some bitterness here, isn't there? But he was full throws bitter. But his own book had just come out, which I will say, and I'll tell anybody who is interested in reading an excellent fucking wrestling book. That Bret Hart book is an amazing read. The stories in it, just from the time, the man has a way with words. I know it was predominantly wrote by him. It wasn't a ghost wrote book. It's brilliant, worth a read. But to kill some time, me and Steve will kind of start walking around. Steve was like, come on, we go and see if we can meet any of these other cunts. And we hadn't paid, do you know what I mean? You paid the tenner for your phone and you're all, I'm looking at Steve going, well, that's a great idea, sir. So we're kind of like, hey, how's it going? And if they didn't pay you, or if you didn't pay them, they kind of just, you were bummed, you know what I mean? They were working. You got ignored. And sorry about that, but we had paid to meet Animal because Jesus Christ, Animal. And He was lovely. It was small room. They were all beside each other in little booths, like your standard fucking convention. Animal standing up. He's got a pair of little blue with the skull shoulder pads on. He's got his touring tag title, which he probably bought for 400 quid off one of the bleeding bootleg sellers. You know what I mean? I weren't no WWE stamped official product, but it was a beautiful belt, a heavy belt. He put some money in behind it, and that was his touring gimmick. He's pacing because he's into it. Axe and Smash are sitting at the next booth beside him, and every so often he just keeps looking around at them and growling like a dog. He's like, and the two boys are just nobody trying to meet them. Like, I'm sorry I didn't go try and get that and sign them, but they were very, if you didn't get a ticket from him, you can't talk to us. But the two men who we did talk to for free were Marty Jannetty, which I don't think I could tell his story on Facebook. I'll save it for you after the show. But Marty is a very colourful character, very into meeting his fans. He didn't care that we hadn't paid anybody. He was just happy to talk to people who wanted to talk to him, talking about how he was getting his return as soon as he got his visa started out. You're like, you're from America. What's your visa problems, brother?
He meant his credit card.
He probably did. He's like, as soon as they pay me, I'm coming back. Like, you're not coming back, pal. And Honky was standing. Jesus Christ, he's a huge frame of a human. You never appreciate how big a man Honky is till you're standing beside him. But fully, you know when you're talking to a man who's gone through the motions and there's intelligence behind their eyes. Honky was. Honky, can I shake your hand and say hello? Sure you can, brother. I'm like, but I didn't pay anybody. Oh, fuck them. How are you? I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. Honky, I love you. He's like, oh, fully embracing the fact that he's the honky tonk man and people remember him and just enjoying being honky. The rest of them, Kamala was a bit of a downer, I think. I think it was Kamala. Yeah, there was a few other, but we were there to meet the Warrior. But anyway, we get into this queue. I'm waiting for it. It's a long queue. They did Brett first, and then they did some Q&A. Warrior was supposed to be at the Q&A. He wasn't there. So obviously he's going to be here. Please say he's going to be here. Jesus, come on. We traveled from fucking Dublin. You better be here, pal. Don't be Axl Rose and me. I love you. So like we're in the queue. And the rumor's spreading like wildfire. I mean, everybody's nervous. Everybody. And every so often, they keep looking behind me. And the fucking Italian that has the poster rolled up. And he's giving it the big one and giving it the nod in the wing. I'm like, Jesus, I hope he comes for that guy.
Even for him.
So anyway, I turn around to the two and I say, look, I have to go for a piss. This is as long as I can queue after, killing time drinking tea for 8 hours without letting a little something go. Thankfully, it wasn't the Guinness. I'd have been down there every 15 minutes. But I'm walking down anyway. I shoot into the pisser. And I'm there and I'm fucking pushing because you're in a queue. You don't want to be interrupting. The Irish have this very, do you know what I mean? I don't want the people behind me to think I'm skipped. I don't want to have to go and stand behind 650 people more because I couldn't hold my balls. Come on, get with me. I mean, the thing's evaporating faster than get it out of me. And I hear this, hi, John, how you doing? I'm like, I haven't seen you in years. I'm good. Ha 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 ha. I'm like, oh, fuck. Get it out of me. Don't care about the dribbles. No tree shake. Zip up. Run out. Kind of. Who passes behind me in a ring of security? The most ironic security ring I've ever seen in my life. Everybody's a foot smaller than them, and this big head smiling and pointing and laughing where everybody. I'm like, he's fucking here, and he kind of catches an eye with me, and I kind of like, he's like, like he's fucking. Yeah, so I tear upstairs. I'm pretty sure half me is still hanging out. I get into the queue. Nobody else knows because I was the only one who found that downstairs check. So I'm looking at Steve going, he's here. And Steve was like, oh, thank fuck, because I paid 90 quid and I have to go home in an hour and a half. I'm like, that's very dry, but very hot. So I turn around, look at the Italian, and I'm like, he's here. And he's like, Well, we get into the sport anyway. We get into the queue. We're going around the fucking queue like it's snaking up and down. I mean, this queue was long. Brett's was long, but this was fucking doubled up on itself. Instead of just one big long queue around the hoarding, So we're queuing. Your eyes are always on them, just watching them interact with all these people. Time comes in like that when you're waiting on something you want to be at. It just comes in like anybody who's waiting for a gig knows. You're waiting for 11 months, and then 11 months pass in 1 second when you're there at the day. But he's I'm nervous because I'm like, Ryanair are flying out in 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it is. I'm doing the maths in my head. How can we? It's like the last 5 minutes in bed before you go to work, before you're willing to be late. It's like, how many more winks and sleep can I have before I have to pay for a taxi to work? But only this is a Ryanair flight home, and I'm not sitting around Old Trafford all fucking night. You know what I mean? Those people seemed angry that we weren't there for the commemorations, let alone for the fucking big man. So one of us goes up anyway and says, "Hey, look, we're from Ireland, and it's not this country." And produce the tickets, saying we have to be out of here and such. Is there any chance? And he was like, "Yep." So we do this walk, and of course, Catholic guilt and everything. We felt so rude. We're like, sorry. Everybody's cool with it. Like it's 3 seconds out of our bleeding life. Like, but they wind us up anyway and put us about 5 into the queue, not immediately next. We're like, now I have no problem with talking. You've probably noticed, but
would have never guessed.
when I'm nervous, man, something happens to me. I go into autopilot. I'll run with my mouth, and I won't know what I'm saying. It's like I'm the commentary desk in my own head, going, "Really? Those are the words you're going to use right now? Okay, let's see how this plays out." But the first thing I noticed when he got in, was he walked immediately. They had a table set up and a chair. He picked the fucking table up, picked it up, walked away, fucked it down, walked over, grabbed the chair, fucked it over, and stood up. And that's how he met all of us, every one of us. And the first thing I thought was, oh, holy shit, the respect out of that. When you meet a man on your hind legs, you're meeting a man. To walk up to say hello to somebody sitting down is old school rude. Do you know what I mean? It's like when somebody leaves, you get up off your fucking seat to say goodbye to somebody. It's just, it's respect. He met everybody that day. He came to them. Our queue stopped here. The podium was here. He walked over to everybody, shook their hands, eye to eye, and said, "I'm the Ultimate Warrior. It's a pleasure to meet you." And you're standing there going like, "No shit, Sherlock." So you put the bar out, and this massive hand comes in, and you feel like human contact, this big embrace. And then he takes you by the hand and walks you over to the little podium. It's like, "So, what has you here? What do you want me to sign?" And that was the first thing that struck me. Everybody was speaking with him, but he was speaking back to them. It wasn't like a next. It wasn't like a dole queue. We weren't there getting on off him. He was getting something off us. And I slipped straight into autopilot. I started talking to him. And it's the reason why in my picture with him, he's laughing his fucking head off, because that's when Charlie Snap took the picture. I'm like, why did you have to drop a fuck Vince McMahon joke in the minute that camera's been clicked? But hindsight is like, I mean, I went straight into Motormouth asking him, you know what, when we going to see it? We deserve to see it again. You don't have to wrestle from the Americans. They never appreciate you to begin with. I mean, come on, give us what we want. It doesn't have to be the greatest match in the world. It just has to be one last match. And he was like, so, and I was like, you know, it's funny, ironically, the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior is quite possibly one of the best-selling WWE DVDs of the year. I mean, all they managed to do was self-destruct themselves with that bullshit. He was like, and he signed my shit. Like, "It was a pleasure to meet you, man. Honestly, the pleasure's all mine." I'm like, "Thank you, Mr. Ultimate Warrior." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny on a backtrack on that story. I went searching about a year later. I just couldn't get. We watched 2 or 3 more of the guys because we knew we had a little bit of time. We'd wiggle around before the plane. I mean, we got the taxi to the airport and walked straight onto the fucking plane. Like, they were probably waiting on us, but we didn't care. Always believe. But I waited to watch his interaction with a few more men, and the guy I sold the poster to went up and got it signed by him. And I swear to God, you got to see the emotion out of this man when he met the Warrior, and you got to see the Warrior's interaction with him. It's just a beautiful piece of fandom stardom. It's just, it's lovely. But I was drinking whiskey one time in a house that I lived in with Steve, with a guy we went to meet him. And I just typed in, okay, Ultimate Warrior Old Trafford into YouTube. And boom, first picture that pops up is the Warrior meeting the Italian lad. And now I typed messages at the end of that video. I'm like, anybody know who this man is? I need to talk to him. This always believe shit. Is like, this is power. This is beautiful. This is lovely. This is just a wholesome thing. And about a year, I joined a Facebook group, a warrior group on Facebook, and I noticed one of the admins. I noticed, and I went through the pictures. He regularly posts his warrior pictures and his fucking workout shit, and always believing all that. And I copped the tattoo on his arm, so I kind of typed in his name into Facebook, started looking at the little his pictures, and then I was like zooming in on the tattoo. I was like, motherfucker, found you 15 years later nearly, motherfucker, there you are. So obviously I added him on Facebook, and coincidentally it was only there about 3 days ago. He liked my current profile picture, which is me meeting the warrior laughing his bollocks off. So it's funny the way things come full circle in fandom. Like, the world is a big place.
It's mad, isn't it, when you think about it? And the poster's probably worth about $1,000 now.
Listen, it went to the right place. I feel no guilt. Like I said, I still own that poster. That video is on YouTube. I've seen what he's got from it. I'm like, the right man has that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, when we come back, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the return and everything that came with it. And we're back. Back again. So, we wait all this time. You've met the man. You've arrived at the pinnacle of what you can do in pro wrestling by meeting this man. And rumblings start to occur that the man is going to come back. So, and there's a merchandise deal signed, there's a DVD deal signed, Hall of Fame, all that stuff. So, take me back to Hall of Fame. This man saying he was the headliner on the biggest show of it all.
And he wasn't wrong, was he? I mean, it's very fucking rare when something comes so full circle that it's almost bordering on fucking Shakespeare. I mean, the amount of slights and Easter eggs that were in that speech is fucking ridiculous. It's funny, as a 70s Irish male with latent guilt and, toxic masculinity coursing through my veins. I delve into emotion every so often, and the Hall of Fame speech is one that taps it straight away without question. Boom, from the very first fucking line when he walks out, and then the McMahon. I mean, and what a delivery! The first thing he does is tell his daughters that the only reason he's alive and they is everything. To the slight on Vinnie Mac by having his wife walk him out, everything. Just, he didn't stop. It was such a cerebral attack on the senses when you've been waiting. Like I said, we spent 20 years in parts unknown without the man in our kind of field of view. But for him to come back, and again, even the precursor to all that, wasn't it the WWE, the game? He did the walking through the WWE studios with the big grey duster that WCW wear a duster. Shut up! You're like, fuck. It's like he never left, and he doesn't even give a fuck. Talk about returning on your own terms. When does that get to happen in that company? When does that get to happen?
What was your feeling about that? I mean, a lot of footage released where, you see conversations backstage with Slaughter. Even our very own Sheamus had a conversation with him. I mean, obviously Warrior was a huge impact on Sheamus' career.
Celtic Warrior is channeling the Ultimate One, Yeah.
And then we get to see one Hulk Hogan jump off the golf buggy, and they have their moment. And safe to say,
one of them has a moment.
Yeah, well, safe to say he put it up to him, and he says, you hurt me,
Yeah.
It was very emotional to see them after all these years, the two of them together again, and Warrior holding his ground and saying, letting them have it, so to speak, but not in a sort of a a way that you would expect. I mean, he had all the reason in the world to be very bitter and caught up and all, but he was very professional in the way that he held his line.
The body language and communication between people is everything. And the Warrior, first and foremost, he never did anything on any of those men. There was a gullibility, and you'll know this. There's a gullibility to who he was when he was a young fella running the ropes. He didn't think he was the best in the world. The boss man was pushing him in that direction. The boss man is a massive manipulator. He'll take one corner and say, well, why won't you be all be like him? And then he'll go to the other fella and goes like, you need them to work. And then he'll put them all together, and a beef will be created between them without anybody sitting down and talk. And we've talked about this before with Vince, to massage the ego of a dressing room. There's no other business like it, with no other locker room like it. It doesn't exist, especially in that era.
Yeah, you touched on the body language. It was very evident that he was very comfortable and very set in how he wanted to speak about what had gone on.
Yeah.
And our other friend was very uncomfortable in meeting with him, really, you know what I mean? Because it was just it was a moment, wasn't it? It was
It's a sister moment. It's a sister moment to their previous moment. We all know what Hogan's like, and I'm not going to go into a diatribe about him because he has his place in this business, and this business is built off the back of him, and it could have happened under no other fucking tenure with no other man. We know this. There's no denying him, and he will not be. History will remember him, and Vinnie Mac will always be fond of him. But if we talk about spotlight moments, we seen him try to hijack the Warriors in 6, and there was an innocence to the Warrior where he didn't even realize what was happening, and he just threw the big paws around Hogan. It was like, "Thank you, brother. Thank you." Do you know what I mean? That was the first fucking. If you want to call a curtain call, why is my new champ hugging the old one? It was babyface versus babyface, but surely you were told to get into that buggy and go away. Why are you still in the ring handing him his belt? Also, why aren't you wearing your mask? Why are you bear hugging this man? I mean, 20 minutes ago, that was trying to fucking finish the match. Now you're just in awe of him and appreciating him. And that was almost there was an innocence to the Warrior that people don't see. And he was hurt. Even if you look at his shoe, he didn't enjoy saying all them things. It was dragged out of him by a business which is conceited to the core. There was an innocence in him that was destroyed. He didn't want to go back. He thought he had no friends. Everybody shit on his career. We didn't. We loved him. We've proved that we do, continually buying his merch. I mean, if you were to drop anything by him, we were all over it. You couldn't get his fucking shit. It was a hot ticket. I mean, everybody else's merch was still sitting on the shelf at the end of the day. His was gone on the first. But you could see that in Hogan on that vignette, the hour long they did after the Hall of Fame. He tried to hijack a spotlight again, and the Warrior didn't let it happen the way it did the last time. He stood his ground, kept his spine up, exactly said to him what he felt. And Hogan was told not to go near him that weekend. That was obviously a stipulation by the big man. But he's like fucking Quicksilver. He's slippery, he's greasy. Hogan will always find an angle and a way back. He won't not let the moment pass without him and his face in it. And the Warrior maintained a quiet dignity and accepted his apology without reimbursing him for the ticket. You're like, no, you said too much, it's gone too far. And now that the camera's on me and there's a WWE logo on the side of that camera, you want to hop over a golf buggy and say you're sorry for all this shit? Why just keep your mouth shut? Why did you have to be an asshole? Why were you continuing to make your name off the back of mine when I just wanted to go away? I wanted to slip into the ether. I was done with the business. Why'd you keep dragging my name through the dirt? You didn't have to. And I think it's very rare you see Bolia as a deer in the headlights. And in that instant, if you watch the body language, there was no apology and makeup. One man was begging forgiveness, and the other man said, I hope in your heart you feel like you've earned it. Because for me, I don't give a fuck about you, but I'm also not going to be seen slinging shit on my own DVD.
Yeah, it was definitely a moment. So he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, and it was an interesting speech. Gave a lot of kudos to John Cena, which was a beautiful piece of the speech, really, you know. And it was just, he moved on then, came out on Raw and delivers the speech. that resonates now with every wrestling fan, but gives us the speech. And we kind of think we have him back. We kind of think he's back. He's very happy around the business. You see some of the backstage stuff. He couldn't be prouder. He's there with the daughters, the wife. It all seems like it's going to happen. We're going to have him back for a while. He's going to be involved. I think he was given an ambassador role.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff happening in the background, and we're thinking he's back. Comes out, delivers the speech, has the mask on, the jacket, as only he could. And then he goes off of Raw, and then the next day, word trickles down that the man has had a heart attack, I think in the car park of a hotel, and they tried to resuscitate him, and he passes away, and the call is made. He's gone.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Yeah, I'll tell you. We were after there was one of the gigs that we were doing. I don't know whether it was a poison or a fucking hell. I don't know what it was. It was something. But I remember I was 3 sheets of the wind pissed. When I say I was 3 sheets of the wind pissed, I was Captain Jack Sparrow. Only the room wasn't all gone. There was still a bucket of the stuff left. And I went up the stairs after the night just to get out of my fucking work clothes, get some fresh shirt on, and I can remember after nights like that, after you're so involved in getting drunk with people and doing 1,000 hellos and dropping 100 songs, and you get a little burned out and fatigued. So you find 5 minutes for yourself. You sit down, you regroup. You're like, right, take the stage face off. I'm at home. All my friends around me. This is the fortress of isolation. Now we can party. Now we can party without consequence. You know what I mean? This is very much like the boys in the back room at that stage. Kayfabe is over, and now we can get fucking balls deep into this night of debauched shenanigans, have fun, dance around the kitchen table with everything on fire around us, and stupid shit, but jovial, good-hearted stuff, like nothing sinister. And I heard this on the door, and in every house that I've ever lived in, there's one thing you never do: go into a room unannounced or without permission. And I knew that was one of the boys, because women never knock. They open the door to ask, can they come in? I'm like, well, half he's already in, sweetheart. But I knew it was one of the boys. I'm like, come in. And Mr. Rocks, beloved brother, esteemed housemate, and one of my favorite Irish pro wrestlers, he's like, yeah, news, brother. I'm like, straight away from that tone, I know. I'm like, okay, what's happened? Yeah, Warriors passed. I'm like, what? I said, yeah. Just checking the internet. And I know when a man like him says something like that to me, it's not dirt sheet fucking. We've heard enough rumors about the Dingo Warrior over the years to know. Did you check your sources? You know what I mean? He says, it's legit. I'm like, okay, I'll be down in 10. He closes the door. I sit down at the end of the bed and just bawl me fucking eyes out. Cried like a 5-year-old, because I was crying for a 5-year-old. The reason I always believed is because in this life it gets so hard, it gets so difficult, it gets on you. Nobody warned you. Your road is your own. You travel it. You do your best. We have all stumbled along the way, but you have certain things that motivate you and keep you going. You just do, and the little things that you keep in your brain. And professional wrestling was mine. I mean, they took the fucking Easter Bunny from me. They took fucking the Tooth Fairy from me. They took Santa from me. My last flag, my battleground, my circle in the sand, where I placed my flag was, you've stripped every innocent piece of belief from me in my childhood. What you're not going to take from me is professional wrestling. It's still real to me, goddammit. Even though I know the truth, I've watched the shoots, I've seen the business, I've watched men pass, I know how real and gritty and ugly it is. It's anything but fake, and it's a hard thing to explain to people when you're on the inside. I mean, it gets to a point in your life where you stop enjoying the ring action. It's like music, you're just watching it and you understand reasons why, how, and what happened, and it's no longer how the fuck did Marty Jannetty swirl around that guy's arm without touching the deck. It's no longer Matrix shit. There's a science behind it, you understand it, and you're like, well, we always kind of knew it wasn't real, because if you do that to a man, he's dead. Do that. Do DDT somebody on concrete and see how well he gets on tomorrow. It can't be anything but fake. It's so preposterous. But at that same time, it's real. It's real because there is those consequences. It is real because we've seen the casualties. We've seen the deaths. And for me, from a psychological perspective, wrestling was the last bastion of my childhood. And if you do not keep one aspect of your childhood for you as an adult going through, well, how the fuck can you look at a child and make them believe in shit? You got to keep a little for you in order for them to have all of it. And that was wrestling for me. And the Warrior was him. The Warrior was it. It was the last flag of childhood. They're not taking this from me. Unfortunately, he took it from me. But what can you do?
Yeah, it's kind of it's safe to say that although we lost him and he was so young at 54, and he had only come full circle, and there was so much ahead, so much he could have given to the company, so much he could have given back to the business, so much
he wanted to.
Yeah.
You've seen how he was behind them backstage segments. Well, it was like he came home. He was like, this is all I've ever wanted. I mean, giving Slaughter the potato, is that not the best in-joke in the business? When have we seen Vince McMahon cry on camera?
Yeah.
A little engine that could, like, when?
Yeah. It was just, it was kind of like, I don't know, because I suppose from following his career and being a fan all my life of him, like, it was kind of like, it kind of would have been weird if we had heard he had contracted cancer or something and passed away over 2 years and withered away to nothing, if you like, through the treatment and all that kind of stuff. But for him to pass, I wouldn't say in his prime, but still physical and still the Warrior.
And he was.
I mean?
You've seen the workout videos that he had done even recently. Yeah. He died a big man. Ironically, I do this again. One of the things I did when I met him was a couple of taps and touches. I was like, but it was friendly. I just wanted to know what was under the jacket. You could have skied off his chest. I've never touched shoulders that hard. It was like, Jesus Christ, you're a brick wall, son. And he loved it. But I think he knew. I think when a man with that level of integrity capitulates to money, I think personally he knew. I think what he did, his greatest, some people would see crawling back to the WWE as a defeat. He didn't crawl. The man he made when he dropped on his face called him up and said, we fucking need you, son. We need something big. We're running out of steam here. We gassed through about fucking 20 years of Hall of Fames when we didn't realize how big this business was going to be. And you're the name we need to bring back. And whatever you need, it's on the table. Full stop. And I think he knew he was on the way out. And his greatest victory was ensuring that his daughters and his wife had a perpetual income going forward. I don't think it was about anything other than making sure this Warrior's last stand is making sure that what he is begetting this world will always be fed and clothed.
Yeah, it's kind of like what he should have got, he'll now get in debt, if you like, and make sure that he provided for what he left behind. So his legacy would be enshrined in the business forever.
Yeah.
And also I'd preface that by saying when I'm gone and you're gone, there'll be more people on podcasts like this talking about the Ultimate Warrior. We're gone as well.
Yeah.
And I suppose that, they introduced the Warrior Award, so we're reminded of him.
His mask is going to be at every Hall of Fame speech going forward. Yeah. How lovely is that? Like it's a post-mortem gesture of he's forever. He's proved he was forever. How many men were put out? Look, again, we talk about this bullshit. This wrestling fan or this fucking super fan or super mark or slight mark, half mark, fucking recurring mark, full stop, comma mark, whatever one you call it. It's not an insult. I consider myself a mark. I wouldn't be sitting here around the accoutrements of markdom if I seen it as an insult. It's a great compliment to me when somebody says you're a fucking mark. You're damn right, I'm a question mark. But how many men have we seen flushed out of the business and washed out who deserve more? How many men have we seen entertain us for that. How many men have we seen addicted to applause and bankrupt and broke themselves? How many men have we seen who retired with their own dignity? Whatever he did, he fucking 2 or 3 comebacks. The cunt did more comebacks than Rocky. He didn't give a fuck. He was there for him, for his business. The business didn't chew him up. He chewed the business up. And then when he was out the pasture, they tried to shit all over his career, simply as a means to bring him back. I mean, there's a lot of men who got bitter with Vince McMahon and WWE. Not very many of them got tears on camera. There was an investment in his innocence. His innocence and belief in pro wrestling almost elevated pro wrestling past cynical bingo hall bullshit. He loved it. I mean, people say he didn't love wrestling. Don't tell me he didn't love wrestling. Don't tell me. I mean, he wasn't the best wrestler in the world, but that's not what we're looking for out of an entertainer. John Cena is a perfect example of a rebranding of the Ultimate Warrior. The man wore a different t-shirt down every 3 bleeding weeks. 5 moves of doom. You better believe John Cena has more than that. Watch him stand beside Bull Buchanan, and that guy could go whenever he wanted to go. But that's not what the business and the company sees. If you're to be a marketable, branded product, you have to do a lot less in a lot more time so that you can do it a lot more often. This is sensible business. The undercard is where you see pro wrestling. Nobody wants Dean Malenko in face paint saying always fucking believe. He doesn't take anything away from the greats who are the undercard. If anything, he makes sure the men below him get fucking paid. This isn't an insult. You know, the last 30 minutes have to be box. They have to be. If everybody in this business is to continue, he has to be box. And you ain't going to be box if you're wrestling like a lunatic 5 days a fucking week with 480 moves inside of 25 minutes against the best workers in the business. What you're going to be is broken by the time you're 40.
Yeah, there was an innocence in his desire to belong, which is the kind of the way I sum him up. When he came back, you know, it nearly felt like he had never been away. You know, he could have easily come back and put himself away in a room for the Hall of Fame, not to be interfered with or, you know, be
Leave me
involved in
alone
anyone.
till it's my time.
Yeah, and just trying to walk out with Linda, do what he had to do, walk back and go.
Is my limo here?
Yeah, but there was, you know, when people talk about how, you know, back then he didn't kind of fit in and stuff like that. But back then, a lot of them didn't fit in. You know what I mean? It was a circus. It was a carnival. You know, you don't put the tigers in with the lions.
But Niall, we've all of us as humans have had our first day in work. You don't fit into a job until you're a year in the business, and you can joke with Donald about his bleeding nana. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have that. He didn't come up in the business. He could have very easily been a professional bodybuilder. He would have never been Mr. fucking Olympia. But Jesus Christ, the boy had skills. No question about it.
Yeah.
He made wrestling, that was his choice. I mean, the segue, product pushing, the Bill Anderson interview, the Warrior could wrestle, but he was told not to. Like, he wasn't the greatest in the world. Like I said, he wasn't Dean Malenko, but at 275 fucking pounds, who is?
Well, we often look, I mean, a lot of the top stars in the business, the big iconic men that were in the business, a lot of them didn't have a lot of moves, and a lot of them didn't have, you know, that skill set of wrestling, that technical 35, 40 minutes. You know what I mean? I mean, Hogan only had a handful of moves and made it through psychology and all that kind of ring mastery and stuff like that.
Choosing his dance partner as well.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan has in him something I wish a lot of men had: survivability. I don't even know that's a word, but Hogan knows how to come back. Hogan made the business his career. He suffered. He did all that. He had the fucking leg break off bleeding. Was it Matsuda? And he came back a year later. I mean, we grow up on these old tropes. Vince McMahon done away with all that. He had a different product. I mean, Ultimate Warrior is the original Mark I superstar. Somebody who wasn't in the territories. Somebody who didn't get fucking punched around by the Bill Dundees of this world, night in, night out. He went straight to the top for a reason. Vince seen where the business had to go in order to survive. And if other men have to get wages off of that success, well, then you take the good with the bad. I mean, Flair has more bleeding wives and divorces. He'll die broke, but he doesn't care. He's still Ric Flair. Woo! He's still one of the best to ever do it. Woo! Do you know what I mean? But when he broke into the business, before he broke his back and before he got personality and charisma, he was a fucking butch motherfucker. Anybody wants to go take a look at Ric Flair pictures before he had that back-breaking airplane accident, he wasn't a small man. He was a huge fucking lump of calico. Now, he's another one like water that finds his own level. He's a survivor, like Hogan. He'll always have a place in the business. But some men have a set place in the business. The Warrior was the proto-entertainer. Everything that came after him was because of him. The likes of your Psycho Sids, your fucking Goldbergs. There's been Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV. It's almost been like a sit-down scientific, how do we make another Ultimate Warrior? How do we get this business apex? How do we get, I mean...
It's frightening to think the money that WWE should have earned off him that didn't in that time period, isn't it? When you think about it, I mean, he was merchandise heaven at a time in the business when merchandise was such a huge factor in terms of licensing and everything. I mean, they should have made gazillions off him when you think about it. You know what I mean? It's mad. Like, it's just...
Man, they're still making money off him. They're throwing his fucking face paint on bleeding branded wine, for fuck's sake, at €80 epoxy bottle. Yeah. Fuck off.
And selling out of it.
You can't keep anything that you put his face. There seems to be there's a cronyism in work and workers and this tapestry of how this business is played out. You got everybody over there going. It's almost like Conor McGregor in the UFC. You mightn't like him, but you know what? He's put about 5-6 grand in every undercard fighter's pocket simply because of his elevation of the brand via his own brand. The Warrior fucking did it, and we should have got more. But unfortunately, there was too much territory men in the background who hampered and hamstrung his career simply because they couldn't understand if he is valuable, we are valued. It's that simple. If you want to put the business above your personal gain, well, then you'll get ahead in your career. But if you want to put your sly, you're going to fucking ultimately self-destruct, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's touch on some of the men he worked with. If we're going to finish up, we have to have some notable mentions here. I mean, obviously, we mentioned Rick Rude earlier, Slaughter, Taker. He worked with so many. Give me a few there that spring to your mind.
144 matches. First of all, the amount of jobbers he ran through in his first 2 years to get to the honky. All them men earn money and have their notoriety. We mightn't remember the name, but we remembered whose name they made. And he thanked them. He thanked them in the Hall of Fame speech. He thanked everybody. Secondly, honky tonk. He said in his own shoots, it was the biggest payday I ever got. But that's brilliant. Honky deserves that. He worked hard. And if he, as a professional, can appreciate at this day and age, if it wasn't, he was the right guy to drop the belt to at the right time. He was on fire and he got all of us paid. That's a fucking veteran talking. Beautiful. There's a lot of people waxing lyrical about the Ultimate One now. Now that he's passed, they're like, actually, you know what? I'm not happy about the bullshit we spoke back when Vince McMahon was paying us to speak bullshit. The Brooklyn Brawler story. There's another one. Brawler has a lovely story on a show interview about his car blew up at the side of the road. And he was waiting to get to the next town. And if he didn't make the gig, he didn't get paid. And the limo pulls over. And the door fucking opens. What's up? Oh, yeah, my car broke down. I'm not going to be able to make the next show. Get in. You're with me for the tour. And Brawler speaks about the Warrior and him fucking on the road in a limo. Where would you get the Brooklyn Brawler getting a limo to a fucking show? Do you know what I mean? Probably, arguably, the best unsung hero of the business. Like, yeah. And Rick Rude's work with the Warrior was fucking exquisite. You want to talk about people who love the business past the tropes of gimmickry. Warrior's shoulders were down when Ric Flair went over. And what was that, 89? I can't remember exactly. I'm shit for times, dates, and fucking cards. Well, he had no problem with doing the job for a better man. And Rick Rude is a man who should have been champion. And you know what, that night? He fucking was. And who did he go over? That. And what was around his waist? Arguably the finest belt in the business for the worker at the time. He was a champ off the back of this. You telling me he didn't love the business? He had no problem with doing it.
Yeah.
Then we got Hogan in 90, the apex of our sport. It's the pinnacle of globalization of the brand. What got men paid. Macho Man means much more than this. Talk about the symbology of that match. You want to talk about breaking fourth fucking walls? He's got Macho on one knee, walking down to the ring. He's got his own face on the other. Even as a child, I was looking at that. I didn't know the Ultimate Maniacs was going to be a thing. Nobody did. But there he is walking, not running, walking down to the ring with one face on the other. Even as a child, I was looking at his kneelers when he was up on the turnbuckles going, why does he have his enemy? Why? I don't understand that. And didn't then, now I do. That was the Warrior saying, there's a man who's willing to work with me. I'm willing to meet him in the middle. They smashed each other's. They pulverized each other's finishers. Was it 4 looking through the little windows that the old one got? And he got up. Who gives a finisher over to a man like that? That elevated Macho Man Randy Savage to a place where it was like, Macho's one of the best workers in this business. If he's not on your Mount Rushmore, you don't know wrestling. And he was he himself was an outlaw wrestler. Him and his father, their territory, the place where Macho Man came from, wasn't a celebrated old school territory of dignity and sat down with the council. That was a stolen territory, a piece of land where nobody was working, and the Popos went and said, here, come here, we'll have that. Macho Man's another Rushmore face. Well, the first one, really.
Yeah.
Like he elevated everybody. He worked with everybody. It didn't matter who you put in the ring with him. If he was told, work with this man, you were watching something that was going to be fun. And he gave as much as he got. Was he stiff at the start? Yeah. But was he a finished product at the end? Yeah.
Let's finish on one thing that I have to ask you, obviously. If there's anything you would change, would you change anything? If you could go back in time, if you could jump in that DeLorean and hit that 88 miles an hour, apart from the day he passed, where you go back and say, listen, mate, you need to go to a hospital and just have a checkup or whatever it is.
No.
But,
do you know what? And this is a funny thing. There's not one iota of who he was that I would change. Now, if you'd have gone back to me 15 years ago when I was getting nothing except for Jack's Pacific figures when I could see them, the wilderness is a lonely place to be when you're the only warrior espousing his value to the business when everybody else is just reading off Vince's script, even though they profess to hate him. Mark. Understand we're all at the same Mark fucking table. I wouldn't even change his demise because he didn't. If you're going to have to die, if you're going to have to pass, and at some stage every man must breathe his last breath, it should at least be for something. And I would much rather how it ended than how it could have ended. Him in obscurity with Ric Flair's and fucking Hulk Hogan's being validated by what they said about him. The fact that it was H who brought him back was perfect. I think he knew his time was up. Now, what I am going to say is this. As a people watcher, and that is my business, as a barman and as a local club fucking DJ who plays songs he hates for people he loves, watch him. Look at him in that ring. The elation in his heart, in his return, added to his demise. Yeah, he knew what he did. The excitement to being away from the business for so long and then to be put back into it so suddenly with such adulation after the Hall of Fame speech. When he walked out into the Hall of Fame speech, straight away looking at him from his physical fucking projection, I knew something's not right here. I knew. And to have that excitement in your heart after it's been denied to you for so long, exacerbated situations that were already there. But would you rather 2 more years on the drip of nothing, just being another guy and them honoring you posthumously? Or would you rather sit down for a weekend, snip up all the loose ends, tie up all the frayed pieces, explain yourself, Look after your family. Take back what the largest pro wrestling company in the world tried to remove for you for 20 fucking years and couldn't, simply because the fans refused to believe the bullshit espoused. To stand adulated in a Raw ring, and he was one of the first Raw stars. And I hear that. His heart swelled to the point where emotionally he couldn't take it anymore. There's nothing left in him. It was done. He took his 2 years and squished it into 3 days and made sure that his children eat for the rest of their lives. As a father, give me that every fucking time. Anybody who says different doesn't understand what it is to be a legend and never will.
Or a father.
Or a father.
Yeah. Well, there's not much more we can add to that. As always, it's been a pleasure. I knew this is one that yourself and Jonathan would thoroughly enjoy and get emotional.
Also, I'm going to caveat that. Thank you for uniting me with a fellow warrior who made the pilgrimage. This rare Mecca rolls around for men in this business, and it's rare that Mecca is so big and so long. But Jonathan Wildcard O'Dwyer, fuck yeah, baby. Fuck yeah.
There's people I talk to on this podcast and people I talk to involved in pro wrestling, and I kind of see their fandom in terms of things that they love, and how when you mention certain things, their faces and the rooms light up. And that dynamic is not always perfect within the 4 Podmen, what we normally do. So I thought this would be a prime opportunity this week to just go in a slightly different direction and acquaint 2 guys who I think could start off a really nice friendship there. I think
it's already done, baby.
Yeah. So until next time, we shall catch you next week. Head over to YouTube, Dynamo Podcast Network, smash that bell and notification button and subscribe. Also on Anchor, there is no doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, that this episode will be up on Anchor, so you can listen to it on audio when you're doing your COVID or pandemic exercise walks or whatever it is you do with your audio. Till next time, Jay, absolute pleasure. Also, Jonathan, who's gone, absolute pleasure. Really appreciate it. Cheers, guys.